noticed that distractions tend to show up right when things are going well, right when you're gaining momentum, building something meaningful, moving forward in your purpose, and suddenly something appears that tries to pull your focus away? Today, we're talking about how to protect your momentum when distractions show up. Welcome back to Unlock with Ty, a space where we have honest conversations about confidence, leadership, purpose, and what it really takes to unlock the life you deserve. And in today's episode, it's one that I think every entrepreneur, every leader, and honestly, every person pursuing something meaningful will experience at some point. Today, we're talking about momentum and distractions. Most specifically, how do you protect your momentum when life tries to interrupt it? Momentum is something powerful. So, when momentum shows up, everything feels like it's flowing. You're getting ideas, you're making progress, you're taking action, and you feel like focused and energized, right? Maybe you're building a business or even writing a book. Maybe you're improving your relationships or you're working towards a personal goal. Whatever it is, when momentum shows up, it feels like you are finally moving in the right direction. And that is a beautiful place to be in. But there's something that I've noticed that distractions often appear right when momentum begins, right when you're making progress, right when you are gaining clarity, and when you're stepping into something new, something unexpected shows up. A situation, a problem, a conversation, an emotional moment, something that shifts your attention and pulls your energy away from what you are focused on. And before you know it, you're no longer moving forward. You are managing the distraction instead of managing your momentum. And to be honest with you, that happened to me this week. There was a situation that came up unexpectedly and it completely shifted my focus. And I spent probably half of the day trying to push through it and trying to keep working and being productive. But mentally, I just wasn't getting anywhere. And my mind was like no longer focused in the same place that it had been earlier that day. And sometimes the hardest thing to admit is that you're no longer in the right mental space to keep moving forward. So I stepped away from him for just a moment, and for someone who enjoys momentum and progress, especially me, that was like very frustrating because I felt like I had to take a pause from what I was doing and it stopped me from what I was doing. But that moment taught me something that was important. Distractions are not always random. Often they show up when you're doing something meaningful, when you're building something that actually matters, when you're stepping into growth, because distraction has one primary goal, and that is to break your focus. And once your focus is broken, everything else begins to shift. Your energy, your motivation, your confidence, and sometimes even your progress. Distractions can show up in many forms. Sometimes they show up in our work. Sometimes they even show up in our relationships. And they even show up emotionally. And sometimes they show up internally through doubt, worry, or even overthinking. They can appear like when you're starting a business, like I'm about to write a book, growing my leadership, raising my family, or simply just improving your life. And the challenge is learning how to recognize the distraction without allowing it to redirect your purpose. So I'll say that again. The challenge is learning how to recognize the distraction without it allowing it to redirect your purpose. So how we protect our momentum. The first step is awareness, recognizing when something has the potential to pull you off course. The second step is giving yourself permission to pause. Like, it is okay. Giving yourself permission to pause. You're not quitting, you're not giving up, but you're pausing long enough to regain that clarity. And sometimes stepping away from a moment actually protects your long-term progress. Because when you return, like when I came back to what I was doing, you have a clearer mind. Like, my mind was clear, my focus was even stronger, and a renewed sense of purpose. This is something I often talk about with my coaching clients, the power of reset. So resetting your thoughts, resetting your focus, and resetting your perspective. Because momentum doesn't mean everything will be perfect. Momentum simply means your commitment is continuing the journey even when distractions appear. And sometimes protecting your momentum means refusing to let a temporary situation turn into a permanent derailment. So if you're listening to this today and you're in a season where distractions keep appearing, I want to encourage you with this. Distractions may show up, but they don't have the authority to determine your direction. You have the power to return to your vision, to return to your focus, return to the purpose that you know that you have been called to pursue. And sometimes protecting your momentum simply means not today. Thank you for listening to another episode of Unlock with Ty. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who may need this reminder. And remember, your progress is not defined by distractions that appear. Your progress is defined by your willingness to keep going. Until next time, keep trusting your voice, keep walking in your purpose, and remember, the life you deserve is already inside of you. Sometimes the only thing left to do is unlock it.